Okay, we're live, man.
Welcome, everyone, to Behind the Door, our bi-weekly backstage post-mortem of the latest episode of The Grey Rooms. This week, we are discussing They Don't Make Them Like That Anymore by Renfield Rasputin. With us as guests are the creators and team behind the episode, starting with Renfield Rasputin himself.
How you doing?
We also have our lead producer and co-creator, Jason Wilson.
Hi.
We have our editor-in-chief, Brian Black.
Hello. How's it going?
We have our composer doesn't seem to be a big enough title for you, JM Scherf, but I'm going to say composer, a resident musician, creator, music man, JM.
Music guy, yeah. Thank you. Hi.
Music dude.
Music man.
Our lead voice actress for the episode, Sarah Ruth Thomas.
Hello, everybody.
And our favorite horror podcast sage, Brooks Bigley.
Hello, everybody.
And that is our crew. We've got myself and 6 incredibly talented people, like the Justice League, but a good Justice League.
But better, yes.
Yeah, a League of Horror. So They Don't Make Them Like That Anymore is a ghost story. And I think it's kind of great that the Grey Rooms has had a story that was set in World War II, where a man is battling the elements and war and rats. Then we have a story about possessed, a sentient stuffed animal. And now we have a ghost story. And I don't want to say traditional ghost story because everyone has their own ideas of what a ghost story is. But I think it's exciting that the show is hitting all these different themes and topics. And Renfield, welcome to the family. And you wrote such an amazing story. What is it about? I mean, I don't want to be too silly, like, what is it about ghosts? But where did the inspiration for the story come from? Tell us a little bit about how it came to be.
Oh, no, he's on mute.
I see a little mute icon
He's
next to
muted.
you. No, he's got it. He's going to get it. There it is.
Did I get it?
Yep, you're back on. You probably were coughing a little bit, and you're like, I'll mute it.
Oh, I think I only got about 2 words. No. I don't know. I just it's computers, man. It's cool. So
That's cool.
The influence, where's the inspiration coming from? I live in Texas, but I spend a lot of time in New Orleans. And driving back and forth, I have a friend who lives just over the border of Louisiana. She lives on 40 acres of ranch land, and she has her farmhouse. And one day she showed me a picture of something she just bought. She goes, look, I just bought this old-fashioned rocking chair. And I looked at it and I said, God, that thing is heavy. It looks like it's just something, they don't make them like that anymore. And she says, yeah, it even has the coolest sound. When you sit in it, it creaks. And I thought to myself, if that thing started creaking in the middle of the night, I don't know what to think. I don't know if I'd be out of there or if I would just jump up, turn on the lights and see who's in it. I don't know. But it just stuck in my mind for a long time, the story of that rocking chair. And I put it in the back of, my files of things to think about, story fodder for later. And when I was asked by Brian, hey, let's write something, for this audio podcast, first thing I thought about is if we're going to do an audio podcast, it's got to have a cool sound. The whole story is about sounds. You're having to listen to it and put the coolest sound. And I want to stick with something that is memorable. And I thought that creaking chair, that story and that picture that she told me about, it was about a year ago. I thought, what can I do with that? That would make a cool sound. So I just built a story around the sound of a creaking chair. And, what can make a creaking chair? Well, that sounds like right up the alley for ghosts.
Totally. I got to say, I've always thought that a creak. I thought there's nothing more terrifying than a creak from another room that doesn't is empty.
Right.
That I think is probably one of the most terrifying things. Brian, did you? Now it sounds like you and Renfield sort of talked a little bit about this beforehand, or did you just get the story come to you and as one of the submissions and sort of and go, oh, what's this about? And go and did it strike you? What was it that made you think this would be right for the Grey Rooms? Yeah, we got another muted mic.
No sound.
Is it my
There we
bad?
go. You're back. We're good.
Isn't that kind of perfect for a story that circles around sounds?
So just to give you a heads up, that was me that muted Renfield by I thought I could unmute him. We were getting some feedback and I was trying to figure out who it was. Turned out to be Jason.
Blame it on the sick guy. Blame it on the sick guy.
But anyway,
I'm not going to allow that to slide.
So the thing is whenever I was talking to Renfield, I was going around talking to a lot of writers on Twitter that I just kind of met. I don't think I had really spoken too much to Renfield before I had asked him for a story, and I was telling him a little bit about it. And he said, "You know what?" He says, "I'm totally into this idea of your podcast." He said, I want to write something. It's going to be really good. You're going to have, a lot of cinematic things you can do with it. I'll come up with something good for you guys. And he was pretty much, that was his course through the whole story. Every time I talked to him, he'd say, "Oh yeah, I got the story. There's a rocking chair. You're going to get this. You're going to get some cat sounds." He's like, "You're going to love it. It's going to be great." I think he wanted to write it as a script even. I was like, no, just write it as a story. But we had a good time with it. He brought it over to us and we, worked on it. It was pretty smooth, really. I don't think there's anything else really to that, Renfield. I think we just pretty much let you do your thing and you did it.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. That's one of the things I really wanted to push for. There were lines in it where, the cat hissed, she slammed the door. And I looked at this and said, I'm going to try to write it as best I can for a podcast. It's a different feel than actually writing where someone's reading the words off of paper and putting that picture in their head. I wanted to write something that the noises would put the picture in their head versus the actual image itself.
Well, Jason, that sounds like a perfectly queued up for you. In comparison to the stories that you set yourself such an amazing work schedule for the season, and you've been sound editing like over I would say 18 stories or more. Do you think did Renfield sort of give you some great opportunities to create a picture here with your sounds?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a
rocking chair and a cat.
Oh, honestly, it was really well written. By the way, I have these earbuds on again. I hope you can hear me. But
you sound good.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But no, it was well written and it was very straightforward. And yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily ask anybody to write in, sound effect here. This is what I mean. I don't ask for that. If they do that, hey, that's fine. I may use it. I may not. I'll be honest with you. But it's like it was well written. It was just easy to work with. And then, of course, I gave it to Sarah. And whenever I have high quality audio like that, it's really just just plug and play. It's that simple. So it was really well done to begin with.
Yeah, you did a really good job with just the sounds of Sarah's character interacting with the cat. Listening to it, I just could really picture and see what Renfield was writing. I mean, it all came together really well. Excellent. I almost thought you just had an actual cat that you were recording going through the whole motions of it all. So, really good job.
What's it like? Yeah, are there? Do you end up going through like 15 different angry files that say "angry cat" and you have to find the right mood of cat? Yeah. Probably it.
That's it. I'm very hands-on with a lot of the sound effects and everything else like that, man. I'll go through 100 different sound effects to find the one that I like. So yeah.
I was like, no, he goes and rescues. He gets a cat from the pound, squeezes it home.
Remember, he recorded real bombs exploding for the first episode, so in his backyard.
We expect excellence here, okay, y'all?
I used to have 2 cats, but after Jason was through with them, I now have half of a cat.
Oh no!
Late at night, Jason's writing Brian. He's like, I can't get the right cat sound, Brian. I need you.
Human,
Just so.
Oh,
you know,
wait a minute.
instead of human centipede, it's feline centipede.
Oh,
Oh.
Sarah,
come on.
Sarah, Ruth, Thomas, this is your second week in the gray rooms and the second week on Behind the Door.
Good to be back.
Last week you were a possessed bear, teddy bear, bent on revenge, and this week you are a heartbroken human who
I can't get any sleep.
Yeah, it's really what I'm fascinated by this story is because ghosts can be any, like, ghost stories. Ghosts to me are it depends what the ghost, like, ghosts aren't inherently evil, right? And it also depends on what the storyteller's where they're trying to go, and it usually, in many ways, the ghost reflects the personalities of the people around them, and it exposes other things that are happening, because a ghost is just a spirit that didn't pass on. Doesn't mean they're evil. And I'm thinking to myself, this ghost was fine until the cat started pissing it off. And then the cat gets it. Yeah. And then if your character Alicia hadn't thrown the chair out, I think you two would have gotten along fine.
I feel like this could have been the start of a really great sitcom, Alicia in the Rocking Chair.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're both heartbroken. You're a little heartbroken. She's Gertie, the ghost, is heartbroken. I think you two could have been friends.
Have to have some new roommate agreements on pets. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah. You kill the cat and it's all downhill.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
But fantastic work again, Sarah.
Thank you.
As always, and I didn't realize your episodes were going to come up back to back like this one.
I did not either.
And that's amazing.
It's a coincidence. I don't think we actually planned that. It just
no, not at all. I think actually me and Brian were looking at the list and we said, "Oh, hey, you understand that we have Sarah back to back?"
Yeah.
Oh well. Hey.
I mean, teddy bear to person. I mean, it's a nice transition.
What we did though was at some point before most of the stories were cast, we had already picked out the dates for the stories,
like the lineup,
put them all together. Yeah, the lineup. So, just really big coincidence. It's all.
Yeah, it's funny because you set the lineup, but the way the episodes got cast wasn't necessarily in the order, in chronological order as they were going to air. So as things got casting, I think Jason would sort of go with the stories that were inspiring him at the time, and then he'd be like, we need to get this story cast, and then and that was just happened, and I sort of lost attention of, and really it doesn't really matter. It's what we're going for is the quality and the caliber of the storytelling, and that's why we got Sarah Ruth Thomas.
Ah, shucks. Thanks, guys.
Can I ask Renfield a question?
Do it.
So how did you kind of determine what the background for the ghost should be? Because that's kind of, it's a very important part of the story. I think it was very brilliant, very sad way to become a ghost, and how well that tied into the rocking chair. Because you use that rocking chair as a perfect vehicle to scare the shit out of Sarah before the ghost even shows up. So you get a 2-for-1. You got not two ghosts, but you have two things terrorizing her. How did you settle on that? Or we do spoilers. How did you settle on the way that the way she becomes a ghost? I thought it was brilliant. How did you get to that?
Thank you. First off, a lot of it's trial and error in my head. As the story unfolds in my head, I sit and I think of the possibilities. I can go this way, or that way. And I'm thinking, okay, here's the possibilities. What would scare the shit out of me? Okay. Now you can have a ghost be a gentleman. No.
That's
not it could be. And you think of the possibilities of this young girl in her apartment and this guy, whatever, with top hat and tuxedo Victorian shows up. Oh, well, no, I can do better.
Yeah.
So then you think, okay, it can be a little kid. Now, a little kid in a rocking chair, now we're getting there. Now, it can be a female. Okay, but it's got to be more than that. Is it a young female? Is it an old female? Well, if it's going to be a young female, why is that scary to her? She's a young female as well. Well, if it's a older female, let me rephrase, a historically older female, possibly something that tragically happened to her. Okay, now we're building on this character. And it's all about character development. So I look at the possibilities of what would scare the shit out of me. And I tend to, in most of all my stories, I always end up, when I write supernatural, there's like 3 themes that I touch on, and I don't mean to, it just kind of comes across. But when I write my supernatural stories, I always tend to rely on something historically older, something from the 1800s. Yeah, 1800s, early 1900s. So to me, that's creepy. When I'm walking down New Orleans, which is a 300-year-old city, and I look at it and I'm thinking to myself, these houses, if you can find a house in New Orleans that's about 150 years old, that's a new house. But most of these are about 250, 300 years old. And to think of all the history, dark and otherwise, that has happened in these places, that starts really creeping me out, that this happened here, that crime happened here, this murder happened here. That's the thing that we lose about history. A lot of people think history is boring. Well, it probably depends on who your teacher was, because if you see the other aspects, the darker sides to it, the things that they don't tell you in most books and most schools, it's kind of scary as shit. And if you find an old rocking chair that has history of some old woman that burned herself up in it because she was that depressed. Now we're starting to, on character development, we're going to build on this, and I think that scared the shit out of me. That's how I came up with her character.
Excellent.
Wow, that was great to hear. Thank you for telling us that.
And
It's so right on it.
I would say that almost every character in the story was kind of a jerk, except for, the ghost kind of was just trying to do her own thing, like you were saying, Graham. But everybody was just, for one thing or the other, you have Graham Rowat, who was the boyfriend, ex-boyfriend of the year.
Such a good fiance.
Yeah, I took the shirt you liked and everything.
You were gonna just write me off when I was calling you because my cat had died, man.
But he left the cat. You left for the cat, so.
But he left the cat,
Yeah, you left the cat.
That's saying something about the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a special cat.
But if the first reaction that she has is to smash this chair, maybe there was a reason why he left. By the way,
when Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt broke up, a lot of people thought that Brad was to blame, but then there were some people who thought that Jennifer Aniston might maybe she had stuff going on, but you don't know.
Breaking furniture. Come on.
Some people call it passion, other people call it anger management.
Yep.
Let's call the whole thing off.
it was 2 days and she's already setting it on fire.
Yeah.
Well, the
that
funny
was after
thing,
a few incidences. That was after a few.
well, that's exactly it. It was after a few instances. At first, she's just getting rid of the chair. Then she's smashing the chair.
Different degrees, yeah.
Well, it rebuilt itself. Well, what am I going to do now? Okay, let's completely demolish and destroy the chair. Let's set it afire. Yep. Well, what she doesn't realize is that fire triggered something because of the fire that the ghost has already been in. So again, it was just, steps.
Yeah, because she goes from a ghostly figure into an actual physical destroyed form during the fire as well. And this is also after Alicia has asked after the chair, hey, ma'am, what did you sell me?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up with that? She sold her this thing for $100 knowing that this chair is all messed up. And the first thing out of her mouth is no refunds.
Yeah,
she has been trying to get rid of her sister for years.
I know.
Well, when she finds the chair, it's covered full of crap, right? kind of like she's trying to suppress it. And, it's kind of funny because one of the things that if you look, it's in the chair, it's an old Raggedy Ann doll. And I wrote that in to see if anyone would pick up. Those are creepy, but what do we know is an old Raggedy Ann doll?
Is that you're talking about like Annabelle or something?
That's where I'm going with this. I wanted to see if anyone would pick up on that. But, mainly my thing about it was when she finds the chair, it's got crap all over it and thrown in a corner, kind of like the sister's trying to suppress it, trying to cover it all up. But, of course, Alicia finds it anyway.
Nice.
Very nice.
JM, you've been, I wanted to engage you here a little bit. There's
I'm
obviously
having fun just watching.
Yeah, oh good.
Can you score it while you watch us?
Then never mind. Yeah.
I just pull out the piano and play quietly in the background.
There's a big I feel in listening to the episode, you now I don't know, I never quite know whether it's all you or whether you come in and sweeten it where we need it. Tell me where you were here before I start lavishing praise on you.
Okay, this is similar actually to the Great War, where the first half of the episode was done already.
Gotcha.
And so basically the second half, after the cat died, actually, it was my first scene coming in was when the old lady was telling the story of what happened to her sister, and from there to the end, that was everything that I did.
Cool. All right, then that's the part I liked. No,
so thanks.
No, I also,
and actually, what's interesting too, like the Great War, that's all I got. I didn't get anything before. So I didn't know what the deal with the cat was at the end, and I didn't know what happened before. I'm like, oh, I guess this woman had an experience with this rocking chair, So it wasn't until the full episode came out that I was like, oh, and it all tied together. And then, so it was fun. It was fun doing it that way.
Do you ever have a feeling of like when you hear the whole thing, and obviously there's music in the first half, do you go, I don't know if I like that music, or do I want that music to be associated with my name, or does that ever cross your mind, or is it's like it's
no, not really. It's Jason picks good stock music to go with it, and there's a reason that he had that stuff in there before I came on board.
I didn't want to slam that music either, Jason. I was just wondering.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
It was very I love that music because it was interesting because the first half or third of the story is about Alicia and her heartbreak. So the music that goes with it is very emotional and it's a totally different thematic musical theme than when the cat's dead and then everything changes into this darker horror. Jason, you I don't know whether there's an easy answer to this, but the one thing about ghosts is that ghosts they don't speak. They don't. Their presence is known because of the way they interact with the world. So you've got the rocking chair. Did when you approach this, was it like, oh, that's an interesting challenge, or was it always like, the ghost there'll be a rocking chair and there'll be were there any things that giving a ghost life was challenging to you?
Yeah. It really is, because I mean, like with I Love My Human, you had the teddy bear, you had a physical antagonist or whatever, a protagonist, I guess, that you could attach yourself to. Whereas in this, it's really about Alicia, and everything else is kind of what's going on around her. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge to try to make sure that you for one, you properly represent the story. You make everybody believe that, okay, this chair's haunted and this poor young lady's experiencing this. And so yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So that's about the best you can get from me right now.
It was great. and I think JM really sort of brought us home when he swept in with all the creepy horror stuff. Creepy horror stuff, that's the name of this podcast, right? Creepy horror.
Yeah. What I liked about what I thought about when I was listening to it was I wanted something a little weird weirder when there was ghostly activities going on. So that's the stuff you're hearing behind there is basically just a reversed piano. And anytime something supernatural is happening, it's a piano that I just reversed the audio. So it sounds like it's coming from another side. That's what I was going for on that one.
Perfect.
Cool.
Let me see. Let's only the people in the live stream are going to see this, but can you show me all of the things on your monitors behind you there? Because it looks super cool. We've got
we got the Grey Room logo.
And we have the animated
art,
the Brooks Bigley animated art,
cool.
which is so cool.
And that's awesome. And that's just my logo.
And your logo. And it's Cassie Shaver? Is that right, Brian?
Petite.
Well, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
She goes by Petite now, but yeah.
Cassie Petite.
Cassie Shaver. So
right.
Yeah, it's great work. It's good collaboration on these things. They're coming awesome.
Yeah. Cassie Petite did the artwork, the still artwork, and Brooks Bigley comes in and gives and animates it in a badass.
Just a little flashy fun.
Yeah. I feel like you need to. I feel like I want to steal your talents, Brooks.
I'll let you borrow my brain. We'll work it out.
Well, you got me onto the mug life. What
mug
is
life? Yes.
Yeah, the mug life where you can take a still photo of a face and make him
talk,
crazy
move the
stuff.
face around.
Yeah. I feel like you gave me your secrets.
But I have about 20 more, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
there you go.
Nothing up this sleeve.
Well, gosh, I feel like I've just done sort of a cursory look at the episode. Are there any other questions that might have occurred to other folks that want to dig a little deeper? Because I've sort of just been outside the edges, and I feel like we've learned a lot, but there might be some more to share. Brian or Brooks, you got any pressing thoughts?
I appreciate one thing I appreciated about the story was kind of you setting up Renfield the I don't want to say drama, but the human interaction element in the beginning I think was very important. If you just went into, so I woke up this morning and saw some rocking chair and it scared the shit out of me. Like you're just writing a creepypasta. It's not.
Yeah.
Not that creepypastas are bad, but we have to know our roots.
Exactly.
So
you nailed it.
Yeah. So that human interaction in the beginning, and Sarah, you were awesome at just getting it all done. I mean, without you, that's just a story on paper, and that's not a dig either, Renfield.
No, not at all.
Okay. So that human interaction in the beginning, I think, was super important for the story, and sometimes I feel that's missing a lot from. Just in general, there's a lot of horror out there, and it always starts with what's scaring people. And you got to care about the character to care about what they're experiencing, I think, unless you're just writing a gory whatever story. So I really did appreciate that you took that time to put that together, having the cat, because, you want to make feline lovers happy. So
right.
It's all done very well.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, for noticing that. Because I know when I read stories, that's one of the things I do is how is the story? I write slow burns. All my things are slow burns. And that allows me to give time for character development. And when you make things like this podcast, when you turn it into an audio story, when you have actors and actresses, like the way Sarah portrayed Alicia, she blew it out of the water. I mean, she nailed exactly what I was thinking Alicia was going through her head at that time. It looks like she could step into my words, and she could actually feel Alicia's struggles. And yeah, you're right. I don't like creepy. Well, not to me. To me, I don't like creepypasta. Not that it's bad. It's just not my taste.
Yeah.
But it's taken years to develop. Skills like that. And I think everybody can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just you have to take the time to learn how. And like you said, know your roots.
Hey, Graham, are you sorry?
Oh yeah, you might be doing the same thing. I was forwarding a question from our chat room, Renfield. Arthur Unk asks whether there are any books, movies, or music that aid you in your writing.
In this story in particular,
Or in general?
No, not so much in this story in particular. Yeah, in general, absolutely, absolutely. Just my influences in general. I get a lot of influences from my favorite musicians as well. My favorite has always been Alice Cooper, and I love. Yes, I love Alice Cooper. Without Alice, there'd be no Renfield. And a lot of things I've learned from him, I try to emulate here in my writing. But also, I love Wednesday 13. And as for movies and authors, I have always been a fan of Anne Rice. I love Anne Rice so much. I actually have over in my curiosity cabinet Anne Rice Mardi Gras tokens from her vampire Halloween parties. A beer from 2005 from her party. I own one of her Mardi Gras gowns. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I've met her.
Write vampires in San Francisco, or stories that took place in San Francisco with vampires?
I don't know. I don't know if she's done that. I know much about the New Orleans stuff.
Okay.
Her vampires move around sometimes, but I don't know how much time they've spent in those areas.
Yeah, if you go back to like the Vampire Lestat, which is the second book of the Chronicles, they'll go all the way to Egypt. And so, yeah, they move around quite a bit. But I've also, going back to knowing your roots, I love Poe. I remember starting off reading Poe when I was in the 5th grade. And of course, that kind of worried my teachers. Lovecraft, Whitehead, Mashon. These authors, you look at them, and they were all around the same time as Lovecraft. They were all friends. And you look at them, and some of them have a little bit of sci-fi, some of them have a little more horror, some have a little bit more fantasy to their aspects. You just draw in a little bit from everything. But I'm also highly influenced by a lot of the older movies. I get much more influence from Vincent Price's movies than I can the movies today. I don't usually go very much for gore. If you read Dance Macabre by Stephen King, he says there's 3 types of horror. And the very bottom is gore. He says anybody can do gore. Anybody can do gross out. It's the easiest thing to do. Again, not knocking them. If that's what you like, that's what you like. The second is terror. Terror is like you're scared for a couple of hours and it goes away, say like your average slasher movie. But the very top, the pinnacle of all horror is the kind that changes your behavior. This is Jaws. You didn't go to the beach for a while. This is Psycho. People stopped taking showers. When I was writing this, the only thing I kept thinking is I want a sound that's going to stick in someone's mind, and maybe a behavior. Maybe someone's going to think twice the next time they walk into a antique store and say, I don't know where that thing's been.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you put a really cool twist on the haunted history of just an inanimate object. Like,
right.
A rocking chair is a rocking chair, and that in itself is not scary. But your rocking chair is scary as shit. It's really cool how you would do that. Like, just for shits and giggles, I've always fantasized about writing a horror story about a microwave, and only because there's a 7-Eleven that I'll stop at for gas some mornings. So I might buy like a breakfast item or whatever, and I just think that's got to be the most dangerous microwave on the planet. It's just a microwave sitting at a 7-Eleven. Thousands of people using it every day. I'm going to stick my hand in and it's going to deform me immediately. Who knows? Write a horror story about that.
You walk past that and you've got a pacemaker, you're screwed.
There you go. See, there's lots of things that can happen.
Anything you need to do.
The thing about machines.
No, now I want to watch Maximum Overdrive.
There you are.
Oh, the original. The original. Yeah.
Wait, there's a remake?
I was going to say they made more than one? Or they made a remake?
Oh, I didn't know that. No,
there's a reason that
I can't tell
many
you
people
the year, but it's recent.
Okay, that makes sense.
Huh.
One thing a lot of people have been saying about the Grey Rooms is that we've been focusing a lot on phobias. And I think we're still living up to that expectation when you have, a phobia now of, as Rasputin's been trying to get into people's heads and keep them from going to, antique stores and things. Now people are going to have phobias of rocking chairs and things that squeak in the night, I guess. Or cats. They will be afraid of cats now too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna piggyback kind of on what y'all were saying earlier about just the fact of like with the human connections and all that sort of stuff that's going on in these stories. The story starts so heavily with just where Alicia is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the very opening, she's sad, she's lonely, she's tired, and she has these outside sources like her sister that are trying to draw her out of this state that she's in. And she isn't really drawn out. She's mirrored by the ghost that's going on. And for me, I also noted the fact that when Samson's gone, it just gets even lonelier. Like for me personally, reading the story and narrating the story, it just gets so much lonelier and also so much more, it has so much more desperation in it because there is no external source. It's just her in this rocking chair and she's walking into these dark rooms not knowing what is in the room with her. Because this was something she was like, oh, I'm finally going to redecorate my apartment. Here's something I can do on the bright side. I'm going to make the best of this situation. And man, it is the opposite.
Yeah. Also, isn't there a parallel between, like, kind of a parallel between what Alicia's character Alicia goes through and then what the ghost went through? Like that like, I feel like Alicia would be sliding into depression kind of based on what was going on currently in that time.
I came very close, and every word is calculated, and I came very close to dipping into the storyline that the old woman or the young woman who's burnt, depending on how you look at her, I came very close to her losing a child. And, there's a line in there, and you can tell I was going down that path, where it said, now that Samson is the only man in her life. And, saying that that's all she had left. If I had had the woman lose a child, the father's already gone. So this child would have been the only child in her life, the last thing that she had to care for. So I thought about that. I nixed it. I don't remember why. I have my reasons. I had a good reason, I'm certain. But I almost had that parallel because one of the things I wanted to do is closer to the end. There's a line where the shopkeeper says, she must see something in you. I left that line, and I left the line about this is the only man left in her life now. But you can tell I was probably going down that road where the old woman had lost a child. And I thought about doing that. I thought about it, but I don't know. I thought the story stood alone pretty well by itself without it.
The story just has so much ambiance to it that you can kind of fill in. There's enough information given that everybody else's mind, as they're listening to it, can kind of take it to where it creeps them out the most, I felt like.
Thank you.
One of the
very satisfying
that I saw, or in my mind, I guess, was that scene when she's on the phone with their wonderful ex-fiance, Graham Rowat. And
she's still my little heart.
She sees the shadow of that rocking chair just kind of moving against the wall.
That was creepy.
Yeah, it's a great scene. Obviously, you can't see it because it's a podcast. Sorry, I'm sorry. Jason loves Graham's face and has the mask again. He's been, but the thing is you got that shadow on, and it's such a great image. At that point, if it was, I think a lot of people might have said, you know what, forget this. I'm getting out of this house. You got to give her credit. I mean, she makes her stand. She's not going to get pushed out of there lightly. She
very powerful.
To fight for the things she believed in. You can tell when she didn't want to. She still had hopes that her fiance was going to come back, and everything. And I mean, she's a pretty tough cookie. I think you could think she's lonely and stuff, but really, I think she kind of had it together in a lot of ways. I mean, she had the wine, the anxiety pills, but I do think that this chair wasn't going to mess with her. She was going to show who's boss, and I think that's definitely saying something for her character. There was maybe even had she have survived, we might have seen her have a very different kind of change in who she was. I think she might have been a better person if she hadn't turned into a toasted marshmallow.
We're not trying to better people here in the gray rooms. That's not what we're doing.
No, I'm just saying. I'm trying to exercise some hope punk. That's a new term I learned. Hope punk.
Yeah, wait, tell me, before I say what I was going to say, can you give me I saw the word hope punk going around on Twitter today, and I still am trying to, no one has been able to drill, you haven't been able to drill down far enough in the tweets to find what it is.
Let's ask Google.
All right, well, you Google it. I'm going to do my thought, which is, because Googling is great podcasting. The great thing that I had about the story is that there's no real villain. I love stories where there's no real villain, or at least the people who are doing things are thinking that they are doing them for the totally reasonable reasons. So Alicia is found this chair that is haunted, and she's getting rid of it, and the ghost who exists in the chair is just trying to exist. And so that it's not a malevolent spirit per se. It's just these two people are going in opposite directions, and something's got to give. And I thought that was a neat aspect of Hope Punk.
Well, I'm looking forward to the sequel, which is they still don't make them like that.
Yes, they still don't.
Where Gertie is freed from the rocking chair, and now Alicia is tied to it.
I was thinking either Alicia could go to the rocking chair, or Alicia could go to her favorite armchair that overlooks that view. And whenever you sat in it, it always smells slightly of Cab Sav.
We can probably upgrade it, and she gets a lazy boy or something.
Upgrade.
Maybe the cat sprays the lazy boy and it won't get out of the leather or something. I don't know.
Oh God!
Season 2.
I mean, that's horror right there.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's a good time too to say that Margaret Ashley, isn't that correct?
Yeah.
That was the voice actress that played. Does she have a name, or is she just the older?
I think she was just the old woman, wasn't she?
Yep.
Old woman.
She did a great job. She's in another one of our stories coming up in January, and it took us a while. We didn't have really a way to contact her, but Margaret, if you're listening, we really do think that you did a great job, and we're very thankful that you came in on this. I mean, Jason, I think you told me that it's kind of harder to find more mature voices for voice acting in these situations, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to find the right opening and closing door sound. So I mean, don't ask me to find a mature voice actor or actress. Yeah.
I think the challenge of finding older actors who are into doing stuff like this is that actually acting in general, usually people who have reached a certain age and are still, if you've been acting for 20 or 30 or 40 years, there's a natural attrition in the business where you're like, this is ridiculous, I'm going to get a real job. And so they just aren't around, and there's not a lot to choose from. And so when you find someone like Margaret Ashley, you're like, you just highlight her name in whatever highlighter you're using, and you hang on to it. So
yeah, and then include her Twitter. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
That was my fault. I for the life of me, Graham actually pointed out, hey, look, it's sitting here in the P cloud. I was like, oh my God.
Here's the file.
Oh my
That's
God.
quite all right.
I actually looked for her. I Googled her, and I couldn't even find her Twitter on there. And I was like, what? I mean, I found a bunch of clips of her from television shows and stuff she's been in, which she's absolutely wonderful in. Oh yeah, she's all over like BBC and stuff like that. But
hopefully we can grab these people. Hopefully we lock them in when they're I feel like we grab these incredibly talented people, and that like by the time we get to season 2, they're all going to be like, speak to my agent.
Well, now we know what Graham's plans are.
My people will call your people.
So you have a plan, as London would say.
Yeah. By the way, that was London was voiced by Christina.
Yes, Christina. Is she in the chat room?
I think she is. She did she was really nervous about that, and she was really honored to do that part. She really loved the story, Renfield. She really loved it, and I know she liked working alongside you too, Sarah. So I guess on her behalf, thanks to everybody for letting her do that. So,
right, and I would like to say to Christina,
Cooper, right? S.H. Cooper was in it as well.
Yeah, S.H.
Yes,
Cooper was in the episode.
That's
So,
right. S.H. Cooper came in at the end as the girl who was
the
who
young
bought the
girl.
chair and is now being tortured.
The next victim.
Yeah, the next victim. And we need to assure people that Christina will eventually be on Behind the Door. She can escape.
She is January. It'll be whatever we for the January
the 11th. I think it's the 11th is the release of that, so it'll be I think the 13th,
25th.
All right.
25th. Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of the next one.
It's all right. I'm a little invested in the 25th episode, so I know that pretty well.
Graham knows what we're talking about.
We have a question from Arthur Unk for the panel. Any writing trends or podcast trends you think need to change or stop or are overdone? That's a big, juicy fruit on the tree.
Yeah.
I can't answer this because I'm not a writer. If anybody reads my tweets, text messages, or anything, you'll understand I'm not a writer.
Writing or podcast trends.
And I'm so new to podcasting. I can't answer that. So
I will say that I've noticed that there are people who are writing new podcasts that are ambitious, which is great. But if you're working with remote actors, meaning that every actor in your project is in a different city and submitting their lines remotely, you've got to be careful that you don't write 5-person scenes over and over and over and over again. I've realized that it's going to be almost impossible to make all those people sound like they're in the same space. And so I find the people who do it really well are the people who find a way or a reason for people to monologue and then bring 2 people together for an interaction. And then we move on to the other person takes the monologue. And that's the recent discovery I've had, which is if your actors are no matter how good they are, it's going to be really difficult to get 4 or 5 people to sound like they're in the same place. Hot take.
Really good advice. Yeah.
I'll take that challenge.
I think you already did at one point in this season, but that's all I'm going to say.
Oh. Well, yes. If anyone can do it, it's Jason.
Thank you, Graham.
Does that mean I can add like 5 different characters for Raymond and Bob and all these people? I can just
Bob.
Bob.
I'm not over Bob yet.
Guys, I'm not really hearing you very well here. There seems to be a problem on my end. I don't know. We'll just move on. I didn't hear that last little chunk there. So
I'm going to spin it around and compliment Jason. I texted this to him, but and I know Jason may not want to talk about his own acting, but I'll just say it briefly. But I think what Jason is having to do as Raymond is incredibly challenging. He starts off each episode having to carry the emotional baggage of the previous story, and it just piles up. So he can't just come in with the same amount of agitation as before. He's got to be even closer to insanity. And I think that's incredibly challenging, and he's doing a great job.
I agree.
Yeah.
I appreciate
it.
Jason texts me all the time and basically tells me to not cut it out, but I think he's getting to a point where he's like, Jesus, I'm not trying to get an Academy Award here. But
we've got a question about Raymond in the chat, I think.
Let's see.
Is he single? No.
Are we going to find out how Raymond ended up where he ended up in future episodes?
Keep listening.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get some answers. That's all I can say. But you'll get some answers. He might. I think there might be something good happening to him, guys. I don't know. I mean,
I think things are going to turn out really, really well.
Yeah. When we listened to the play Death of a Salesman one time. It was on vinyls in an English class that I had, and I remember one time my teacher used to say, "Hey guys, I think Happy's going to get the money," or "I think they're going to get the money. I think everything's going to turn out okay." And we knew, of course, that I don't want to spoil something that's been around for decades. That's your research assignment, everybody that's listening to this.
Just the
watch That's the Salesman, and
there's something. The title gives away a certain aspect of the.
It sets a mood. Speaking of the
Raymond parts, though, I think I really like those parts of these. I love the stories because I like dealing with these absolutely extremely talented authors. It's an honor to even read these stories before we get to actually make them. Because all of these stories that we have used this season so far have when I was reading them, they got the gears turning. I could already hear the sound of the soundscape for them. I could hear the sound effects. I almost had an idea of how the actors or actresses sounded. So I mean, hats off to all of the authors this season. I'm telling you, every single one of them are absolutely phenomenal and stellar. And with that, Brian writes all the Raymond scenes, and he needs a lot of credit on that because I'll tell you what, he is taking the interactions between, my personal opinion, my favorite character in this has got to be the demon, Bob Graham. His character, I absolutely love working with that, man. And it's so much fun to create that voice. And you just kind of listen to the Raymond and the Bob go back and forth. And Bob's just like, oh, what? Just shut up and just move. Come on. And I just love how it's all come together. And that's actually what makes doing each story stressful and fun at the same time is the Raymond aspect and the regular story and just the multi-universe we have going on. This is so much fun. So Graham does a great job as the demon there.
Just to jump in, because people are going to analyze what you just said. Is he a demon?
That's how I envisioned it when I started.
people are going to basically, no matter what we talk about, people are going to say, "Whoa, he just said a demon." But yeah,
well, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. That's wait till
Raymond thinks that he could be a demon, but Raymond really doesn't know what's happening.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out what's going on. Sarah had something she wanted to say to Bob, though.
Yeah,
I'm interested to hear what that was.
Oh, I just think that it's very considerate of you to get him a stuffed animal and a pet. What a nice Bob.
Probably every week he's trying so hard to help his friend Raymond.
Is Bob really just trying to make a better friend? I'm worried about Bob. I really think we're focusing so much on Raymond, and I think really Bob is the one who needs help in the gray
Bob's
rooms.
journey.
I see a lot of similarities between the situation in Renfield's story and the loneliness and Bob. Right? I think Raymond might be their cat. Raymond is the equivalent of the cat. And he dies, and Bob is just so sad every episode. He just wants to
I was just wondering, like in the beginning, I'm looking forward to the 4th episode, and I was just going to wonder if Bob's going to sit there and go, "Sit down. I don't want to sit down. I don't want to sit down." No, sit down.
That's right. That's right.
Well, here,
maybe tune in.
And the very last episode of the season, there's just going to be one pile. There's going to be a mound of stuff, and it's just going to sort of pulsate.
And he won't be able to see a door.
It's become like a Voltron monster.
Yeah, it's a Voltron. It's definitely going to end up like a Power Rangers episode.
Jacob will show up and help you take the stuff out. He'll help you carry the truck.
Yes, Jacob the Mover.
That's right.
That's great. I love hearing Jason
the Mover. I like that guy. He was a good character.
Very good.
Played him.
But that was our friend.
That was Jason.
Yeah. But I love the fact, Brian, you're the one who pointed out that people who tune into the show are going to get a new anthology standalone story, and they're also going to get a serialized story. And it's great when you get both delicious treats.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we thought about when we introduced the preseason stories was that we had the warden, and the warden doesn't really have necessarily a major tie into any kind of serial, but he kind of just does whatever the heck he wants, and people liked him. People thought he was funny. So we definitely want to use him. But from the beginning, Jason wanted to have a voice that was communicating with Raymond, and he wanted to have something there. And when he got me involved, he said, I have this, the room, I have this setup here, but I need, more than that. I don't have the story of what's going on with who Raymond is, I remember this is the first episode where he names the voice. So, he just says, I'm going to call you Bob. And this actually happened when I was talking to Jason on the phone. Jason, I said, what's his name? What's this voice's name? He was just like the demon or the voice or whatever. And Jason's like, well, I don't know. You can't pronounce his name. It's something that isn't able to be communicated by human tongue or something. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to say the voice all the time. Let's just call him Bob as a joke. And that just stuck. So my sarcasm became, and I think really that echoes through Raymond too, that kind of, sarcasm that, I don't care who you are. You're just a general name. If your name is Bob, I'm sorry. You have a great name. But in this situation, it was just something simple. And, obviously Bob doesn't care much for it either.
New disclaimer. Got it.
Yeah. All the Bobs have now unsubscribed. They're like, screw you guys.
Well, let me preface this by saying that I don't know what the story on Raymond is, but I think Bob might be short for Beelzebub.
Now you're getting it. You're stirring the pot, JM.
I like it.
Hey, Brooks, I don't know if I can hear you. Come close to that mic, Brooks. Oh, no. Yeah. Someone turned him off. Brian, did you turn him off?
I didn't do anything.
I'm missing his sage wisdom.
Did you tick off Bob?
He was giving away spoilers. But Sergio says, he goes, the great Bob. So he's getting excited over here. He likes
Bob. Oh, there we go. Is that it? Maybe? Nope. No.
Whoa.
He's working. Brooks is keep tweaking it.
Oh,
maybe back out or back in or whatever, because we want Brooks around for our next segment. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know,
he looks like he's like customer.
We're starting a new year. We're wrapping up 2018. Boy, it's had its ups and downs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do add a little something else other than just gazing at our navels, and that's gonna be. I thought we could talk about our favorite horror moments of 2018. We don't have to have many. You can have one, you can have two. I'm going to say 3 would be good. And it can be anything from movies to TV to podcasts. And I know we're all going to make number 1, the Gray Rooms podcast. So let's just pretend
Thanks,
that
guys.
one's already done.
Dimple right here. Dimple.
Yeah. And then we'll do the other 3 after that. And I'll start out with, I'm going to start out with an easy one. I have a giant list of shows and movies that I need to see. I haven't seen The Ritual on Netflix, which is supposed to be amazing.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen it?
Yes.
Well, I won't get
Watch
into
it.
huge takes on the ones that I haven't seen, but there's a movie called Cargo with oh gosh, Tim from The Office, Bilbo. I always forget his name.
Dude,
Bilbo.
Bob.
Oh, this is terrible. All right.
Brian.
Okay, here's my number 3. There's a show on Netflix called Dark. It's from Germany.
Oh,
it's about it's kind of a German answer to Stranger Things.
That was a good reaction, Sarah.
Also,
I really love Dark. I really love Dark.
It was really great, and I highly recommend it. These kids discover a tunnel that jumps forward and backward in time, and they start messing around with their own relatives, and it's crazy. Someone else give me some. Oh,
You
I
know,
should actually
I'll
pick
just go
someone.
ahead. I
Jason,
got. I finally have something.
Great.
Actually. So you said the best moments of 2018 related to horror.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, 2018 was, and this is the Gray Rooms. I mean, this is the year that it actually stepped into the horror community and tried to do this, and thought maybe I could be a podcaster and maybe do some horror. And because of that, my absolute favorite part of horror would be every single author, every single voice actor and actress that I've had, and JM, I have had the opportunity to get to experience, because it's just really opened my eyes up to horror. And when we were featured on the Sci-Fi Channel's website, that was one of the hallmarks of my fledgling career as a podcaster. And how when a No Sleep podcast, who I really look up to David Cummings. I admire what he's done. He's taken a hobby like a podcast and he's turned it into a successful enterprise. And I admire that. And he was a big influence to me becoming a podcaster. And to have one of my crowning achievement moments, and I don't know, I mean, Graham, thank you, but I heard at the season finale, he mentioned our podcast, and then he mentioned my name, and I got to tell you, this may not really resonate with everybody, but when you have somebody that you actually admire and you look up to, somebody that you're trying in some way, shape, form, another emulate, and they take the time out of their day when they are as big as they are to acknowledge you, the nobody, the new guy, that was big. That was very big for me. And so, it was that Sci-Fi, meeting Graham, meeting Brian, meeting JM, Sarah, everybody, Renfield, everybody. So my favorite moments of 2018 is the Gray Rooms and everybody involved with it.
Well, I don't know. Yes, amen, brother. I don't know how anyone else is going to top that.
Cheers.
But that was amazing, and I wholeheartedly agree.
He covered the horror and the heartwarming portion.
Yes.
I have zero heartwarming. Even though this is not 2018, I am our local scary story wimp. I have never been a horror movie person. Like, I've seen a lot of the classics. I love reading horror stories. I do not enjoy viewing the movies. I am still avoiding imagery of the most recent It. Okay, like it comes on or something, I'm like, I'm out of there, guys. I'm gone. Can't do it. But I actually just started listening to the No Sleep podcast back in February, and when they were premiering season 11, and I started listening to it, I was like, man, this is really cool. This is really, really cool. And started just kind of marathoning all of it because I drive a lot for work. There are a lot of times at work where I can have headphones in. And so got to marathon a good, healthy portion of the show in this short amount of time, almost a year. And also realized I can't listen in the dark either. It gets me because, man,
yeah,
I'm a wimp.
Well,
still love like working for the Gray Rooms and everything, and I still love reading all these stories. But Graham, you were about to say something.
Didn't everybody see A Quiet Place this year?
Yes.
I did. Mm-hmm.
There you go. That could be.
No.
Did you enjoy it, Sarah?
I did enjoy it, and there are some movies that I'm beginning to see. Like, I know I mentioned last time, my favorite horror movie is Cabin in the Woods, but I saw A Quiet Place. But the most horrifying part of A Quiet Place for me, because I viewed that a little bit more as suspense and psychological than anything, which is what I do enjoy. But the terrifying part of A Quiet Place for me was what that meant for all of our pets.
Oh, yeah.
Like what that meant for all of our animals and all that sort of stuff. And I was sitting there with my friend in the theater, and both of us had the thought at the same time, and we just looked at each other and we went, our dogs.
Yeah.
Well, I tell my wife all the time that if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, we got to let the dog go because he's going to give us up.
Yep.
Welcome back, Brooks.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. The camera doesn't
Brooks,
switch.
that was the greatest horror in 2018.
Yeah, Losing Brooks was the scariest. He was my number 2 horror moment. Is Losing Brooks. Brooks, do you have a favorite horror moment from 2018? Something that stands out that isn't A Quiet Place or Bird Box?
Yeah.
Although I enjoyed Bird Box. Everyone loves Bird Box, but it's such of the moment right now. It's overload.
There's a theme.
Yeah.
So you can hear me, right?
Yes.
I'm like petrified you can't hear me anymore. Okay. I think, and I don't know if this is like a cheap answer, but and this goes against what I said about creepypastas earlier, but I really started getting into listening to John Grill's Creepy podcast this year. And he's just so brilliant, his own voice and just how he narrates. He's the perfect everyman to narrate these stories. And I've heard other people narrate certain creepypastas that I just like, man, it does nothing for me. And then I hear John do it, and I'm blown away because he just knows how to articulate that, like, I'm sharing my experience with you kind of narration just so well. So I've been really blown away by listening to Creepy lately. That was like my new horror that I discovered this year that I really appreciate. No, it's not the Bird Box.
No, I need to try that. Obviously, it's got a huge following and everyone's heard of it. I just haven't. I find that I enjoy audio drama and working in audio drama, but if I need to really be focused in order to listen to it, and
not passive.
If I can't give it 100%, then I'm usually going to default to sort of current event podcasts where I can be half in and half out, which I feel just means I have a giant pile of podcasts I should be listening to. Renfield, give me any horror highlights for you this year.
Yeah, I've had a couple. I'm going to put this on the top of the list, though. And, I know, really, seriously, I've said it a couple times. This has been one of the highlights. I've always been very humble, and I think my story was okay. I think my story was good. Is it one of the best things I've written? I don't know. I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say definitely not. It was a good story, but when I heard it for the first time, it was so electric. There was nothing like hearing this from the music. There's been times where I've actually stopped and said, wait, play that back. Do you hear that music? And the actresses, the actors, nobody could have captured that story as well as everybody did who was involved. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm going to be completely honest. Everybody I've talked to has been just completely amazed at the production and how well it was done. That's one of the first things they say. Wow, this was really, really well done. Your story was good too, but listen, those guys really, really out. And I'm like, no, it's cool. They really did. And they took a story, I'm just going to say on a scale of 1 to 10, a story that was, 4 or 5, in my opinion. It was good, but they made it a 10. Every one of y'all, and for y'all to have my story and accept it into y'all's podcast, this really is like a new family for me, and I really, really appreciate it, and I love y'all thank y'all so much for doing that. So this has been one of them. The second thing is I've had a couple of other projects going on. I started doing a couple of horror conventions this year. I was associated with a movie that I wrote with a co-writer of mine, and we wrote a throwback slasher 80s horror. It was called it's called Butcher's Bluff. I made the mask. I designed and made the mask for the villain, the Hog Man. And just the love from the horror community when we showed up and we had the villain in there in person, and everybody's response was just overwhelming. So also, finally, one of the other things I've had, the last thing was a short story of mine got turned into a short script. The short story is on Amazon, and the new script version of it is called The Legacy. We took it to 3 horror film festivals this year. Actually, 2 horror film festivals. One was just a general film festival, and it won. in a general film festival. Thank you. And the other, I came in as a finalist in all three, but I won the larger. It was a tier 2 film festival. So I was kind of proud about that. But, you know, that was really cool and all. But something like this, where so many people are involved and so many people want to push this forward and make it the best product that they can, it's an honor to me. It's an honor to me to be accepted. It's an honor to me for so many people to be interested and take interest in it and promote it. And especially everyone that's writing me, that's coming back and saying, wow, that was a really cool story. I'm like, you know what? That was my story. Thank you very much. But that was not my production. That was everybody's production.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. It was an honor to do your story. It seriously was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Round of applause.
You want to hear how that movie script sounds?
I'm actually that you said Butcher's Bluff.
Butcher's Bluff is the throwback 80s horror movie right now. We're looking for, we've got a lot of cool people tied to it. We've got Bill Johnson, who was Leatherface. We've got Tyler Shea Cohn, who was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think that was 3. We have who else is tied to this?
All right, you say Kane Hodder, bro, and we're gonna be best friends.
No, unfortunately, I don't have Kane Hodder. I have Paul Taylor, the new Pinhead.
All right,
Paul Taylor's in it.
Yeah, actually did a pretty good job. I was very skeptical about the new Pinhead, but
right, yeah. Definitely. But, you know, like I say, right now, the big thing on my list until production goes into that is the legacy. And, you know, the short story that I wrote on it it's all based of course, in New Orleans before. And there's actual real place and there's a good urban legend behind it. But the short story was called In Defense of Our Good Name. But it's turned into the legacy. And I should probably put up something cool on Twitter or Facebook about it, you know, to follow it as it comes a feature. But we'll see how it unrolls.
Yeah. Can I find your Butcher's Bluff? Where can I find the Butcher's Bluff at right now? Because I like slasher movies, man. I'll watch it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. There is a Twitter. There's a Twitter page for it, but it's. I don't think it's that active. But there's a Facebook site that is active, and it has a list of all the actors on it that's tied to it right now. So you just look up Butcher's Bluff on Facebook. And like I say, the legacy is coming out. We don't have anything on that just yet, but I've got a brilliant co-writer that's working on that with me right now. And I'm just so excited to be involved with him and getting this project done because he really is in tune with it, just like y'all were in tune with this story.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. I'm going to check all that out, brother.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian, hit me with your hot horror take for 2018.
Well, you want me to follow this guy? Come on.
I know. But, you know, Sarah had to follow Jason's wonderful speech. So,
all right. Well, you know, the one thing is I'm new to podcasts. I have no background. I haven't really listened to them. So, really, one of the highlights for me in 2018 was reading all of the horror stories and picking a lot of the horror stories ended up in our first season and in the contests. I mean, there are stories I read that made me want to throw up. There's stories I read that made me want to take a shower. There's stories I read that just, you know, really made me feel like my soul was now unclean, you know, or something like, you know, but because I really didn't have a huge background in horror, to be honest with you, although all my stories are dark, I never really looked into it. So that, seeing this, being a part of this, definitely highlighted 2018, getting to meet guys like Renfield, getting to meet guys like Arthur Unk and Bo Chappell and Candace Green and all the people that we've, you know, been producing their stories for. Just fantastic. We've really been, you know, doing some great things. That was definitely a highlight. The other thing is I mean, movie wise, I just watched The Bird. I wanted to say The Birdcage. Boy, that's a total difference. But
also a good movie.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Bedazzled blindfold.
Yeah.
I know. I caught myself. I thought that's pretty good. I gotta say. But the Bird Box, I did watch it.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock, and I think it was a great movie. And Quiet Place, I thought was a highlight. I was kind of disappointed. I mean, I liked movies like It and stuff last year. I think we had, The Stranger Things was last year. 2018 kind of, I felt like was a little bit of a lull in entertainment for horror. I'm kind of looking more forward to 2019 when I can see It Part 2 and Pet Sematary and, a lot of things that are going to be coming out. Stranger Things Season 3. So I think we're going to get a lot of good stuff. Also, but for 2018, Bird Box and Quiet Place, kind of similar. But honestly, I like horror that kind of does make you think a little bit. In Quiet Place, the fact that everybody in the theater for once in their lives were quiet. Nobody made a sound. The one guy that was probably had that extra large popcorn was probably tuned into the movie to even grab a piece of popcorn. He just didn't want to do it. And if he did, everybody probably looked at him and punched him in the arm or something. So, I mean, that's the thing, you were real quiet. It really created this atmosphere that was amazing. And then, watching the Bird Box with my wife today, we just, I thought that was way worse than even A Quiet Place in the sense that, we rely on our sight so much to have to drive around and have to black out your windows. I mean, it was just amazing. Like, I don't want to spoil anything else in this movie, but it was great. I really liked that. To me, that was terrifying in the sense that if this was my life for the next couple years, I wouldn't want to deal with that. That's horrible.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it with the wife, maybe tonight. Maybe.
I feel like the challenge in watching horror is that if you have a significant other and they don't like horror, then you're gonna have a hard time fitting in all the cool, maybe not cool, but the stuff that is on the list that, for example, The Ritual or this movie Cargo that I want to watch on Netflix with, let's see if I come around again. The actor's name is, he plays Sherlock. I know he plays Watson on the Sherlock.
Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, the other guy.
No, Watson.
Martin Freeman.
Martin.
Guys, quickly though, here's the premise. The guy is in the outback, very remote. There's a zombie apocalypse. The virus takes about 24 hours after you're bitten to turn you. This man has been bitten, and he has his infant baby with him.
Oh, yeah.
And he needs to find someone to care for his child before he turns. And just that premise alone.
Wasn't this based on a short movie, though?
It was a short film, yes.
I saw the short film. I saw that on YouTube.
Yes, that short film.
That was really good.
So anyway, file that away. But yeah, I don't. There's no way I would be able to talk my wife into. If I said the Z word, it would be.
You should watch The Ritual, though, man.
Zebra.
I know, really, right? Zoo?
Just call him Zed. Isn't that what sometimes they call as a lingo for
zombies? Call them Zeds.
ED. Yeah, just say it's a Zed.
It's a Zed movie.
Bill and Zed's Excellent Adventure.
JM, what anything stand out for you? Did you you may not have had a chance, but you got anything on horror for 2018?
Yeah, there's a few things. First, obviously, getting to work on the podcast, because just concentrating on horror music the last few months has kind of like opened up a new area of my brain. So I really appreciate being able to work on this and continue to work on it moving forward. In terms of movies, TV and stuff, movies, A Quiet Place, the scene when she was giving birth is one of the most intense scenes I've seen in a long time. For TV, Haunting of Hill House was great.
Forgot that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the shows I'm desperate to watch, but if you don't have someone in the house who's going to watch it with you.
Yeah.
The true
horror.
I
had a real life horror moment this year too. I went to Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia which is one of the most haunted places in the country. And we spent the day there, me and the family, and it was a blast. It was creepy. I didn't really get scared, but maybe a little bit.
Cool.
Is this like a closed penitentiary?
Yeah, it's been closed for a while. There's a lot of broken down cell blocks, but a lot of them are open. And we did go during the day because we had the kids, but we plan on going back for a private night ghost hunt, which
you gotta do that. I live near Alcatraz, and they've done that at nighttime before.
Yeah,
there's nothing scarier.
I can imagine.
Bring extra underwear.
Were you able to go to the section in the back that was death row?
I don't remember. Oh, were you talking to him? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, I was talking about the Eastern State. I was there, Eastern State. I think I was there in 2009. And when you walk in, it is exactly the way you would see a horror movie, a closed down penitentiary that is 100+ years old. You'd expect, look, the paint's peeling off the walls, and they gave you the story, which it's almost kind of like an asylum where they used to, penitentiary, that's how they got, from the word penitence. And you had to give penitence for your sins and your crimes. So they had something in the top of each room that was called the Eye of God. And it was just this 8x12 cutout of every room, and every room was solitary confinement. They would wrap the wheels of the carts where they brought lunches in leather so they didn't make any sound. You were not, as a prisoner, allowed to talk, hum, sing, make any noises. And it was just driving people crazy. But in the back there, they showed you death row. And you thought the front was bad and terrifying. You go to the back, and the back is just much worse. And there's even a part where they even made solitary confinement even worse than what it already was. And it was literally the hole. Yes. And it was like these steps down into the earth, and it was completely dark, and it just was a hole in the ground. So yeah, Eastern State is crazy, but I've always wanted to go see Alcatraz.
That's a freaking story, by the way, Renfield.
You're on to something. You're on.
Oh man,
think about the noises for the podcast.
Dude, I'm already there. I'm already there, bro. I'm already there. You don't even know.
Okay, you got the wheels squeaking, the mice and the rats squeak. Echo.
You know what I think would be the most? You know what I think would be the worst part of that? Would be the air around you when you're in this hole and you're just sitting there and you just hear the air. You just hear like this emptiness all around you.
It's very Poe. You can imagine Poe sitting there trying to narrate the season 3. Season 3.
Season 3. Oh man,
I love how he's looking ahead. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh no, this is going past 3. This is going past 3. Season 12, 13, season 18.
Come on, don't be conservative here. Higher.
Hey, I just want
the mail. Checks in the mail.
I just want to get to season 3 with this story. Now, hey, you know what? Maybe I need all y'all. Let's just do one big story and have everybody do a small part. We can do the story about a prison, and hey, listen, this was everybody's idea here, and it was a conglomerate of ideas. Let's do it. Hey, wait a minute. Raymond goes to prison.
Raymond goes to prison. He is in prison.
Yeah.
He's
already in a pretty crappy place.
I thought he was in hell with Bob the Demon.
Dude, is he? Is he? Or is
hey,
I don't know.
We can't talk about what's going on with Raymond. Non-disclosure acts for next season. We gotta.
Hey, we're in to give spoilers.
Torture him? Yes, we can.
Yeah, if Raymond was offered the chance to go to prison right now, he'd probably be giddy.
Yeah,
that would be really great. Yes.
We gotta see what happens with Raymond. See where he's going.
Nice plug there.
Speaking of plugs, guys, let's give everyone a chance. I know we're still sort of working on Behind the Door. We're coming up on 90 minutes. I like the 90-minute feel.
Yeah.
But I want to give everyone a chance as we wind up to sort of let us know what they have going on professionally, so people who are listening and enjoyed their work in this episode can know what they're doing. Jason, what made you think of that?
No, I still think that. I don't know. I wanted to hear, honestly, I don't know if he said it, but Brooks, I don't know if he said anything about the horror stuff in 2018.
He did.
I
He
want to
did
hear
one
Brooks.
thing, but he's probably got another. What was the one?
Another.
Have the attention span of a. I think he. Crap. I blanked.
I brought up Creepy Podcast by
That's
John
right.
Grills.
That's
Creepy.
right.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. That's right. I'm glad you. Thank you for bringing that back up, because I wanted to mention actually that John Grills supports this podcast, and I listen to Creepy Pod too. So, yeah, I wanted to take time to thanks for him. Hey, that's right. You mentioned that I was having some kind of friggin' issue with my internet. So, thank you. So, sorry, Graham.
No
what
worries.
was that question again?
No. I was. I don't want to wrap things up prematurely. But the next thing I thought on my list was to let people sort of, as Renfield did, let us know what else they've got going on. Now, some of us are regulars here. You might have already done that. But maybe last week that might not have been something Sarah had a chance to talk about. If there's just anything you want to tell people, where else they can find you, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, I'm on Twitter. I don't have many followers, probably because I'm extremely inactive on Twitter. I am not a social media person by any means.
But you have the best. You have the best Twitter handle.
At Audio Torment.
Torment.
Yeah, I don't know how I got that. That's awesome. I thought that was that. Hey, man. Hey, works for me. I never. That's that kind of.
Can you reserve the website audiotorment.com? Is that it? Because that would be gold.
I could probably, you know what? I'll do it right when we get done. I'll do it right when we get done. Christina, audiotorment.com. All right, it's on. We're on it. But actually, just wanted you guys to know that we got a. I guess we've already mentioned this before, but we got a double feature coming up here about mid-season, and pretty much finished both of those. And the patron stories are going to start rolling out. So as far as anything extra, no, I'm not going anywhere but the Grey Rooms, because this is my home. But we're making some serious progress, and I'm really looking forward to reading those stories for season 2. So please get those stories in. I really want to read these stories. I'm excited to see what we can get. You guys have seen in these 3 stories what we want to do, what we can do, and this is just the start of it. So get it in here. Help us learn to get better at what we do, progress, climb that ladder, and let us take your story and give it a life and just elevate it. And also, with that being said, if you're thinking about doing some voice acting and stuff, I'm not saying now, but when next season comes around, think about it. Think about it. I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm already thinking season 2, guys. And we're 3 in on 1. I'm thinking season 2. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm pumped. And I got the big glass.
Yes.
Well, I know that Sarah also recorded some lines for us for one of our patron episodes.
It's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be so good.
That's the one by Lachlan Watt. Is it not Fix Me?
Yeah, Fix Me.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarah always does a great job. Whenever I see Sarah's name attached to something, I'm pretty flipping excited.
Well, now see, what I want to ask is that in they don't make them like that anymore. There were screams as Alicia falls into the fire, and those
Audio Jungle, baby.
Right. So for coming up for Fix Me, what do we get, Sarah?
It's all me. It's all me.
Yeah.
There's some other characters, and they're their own voices, but then there's me, and there's some great screaming. And boy, I had to warn my neighbors.
I was just gonna ask. That's like an obligatory thing to do nowadays.
I bake cookies for my neighbors on a regular basis. We're good.
Honey, Sarah's yelling again.
But she brought cookies. Is it the acting screaming or the danger screaming? Oh, it's the acting screaming. Okay.
It's funny because Sarah had asked if we wanted real screams. I said yes, please, and then I listened to last week's episode, and I heard the screams. I'm like, oh, I think Jason can probably just get some screams. Oh well.
Now you have You know what? Now he has mine on file. Make
And-
my
Yes,
screaming
ma'am.
famous.
And more importantly, Sarah, you've got those screams for your
I have
future
them now.
use.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 of them all in this one short little file. Man, that's a lot of upset Sarah.
And Sarah, I talked to you about this, and I'd love to promote it
Yes, please.
on your behalf. Is that Sarah was recently contacted by our good friend David Cummings, and will be appearing in season 12 of the No Sleep podcast.
Nice.
Hell yeah! Awesome! Yeah.
Good job, Sarah.
So,
David
man,
Cummings-
more
yeah.
screams.
David Cummings is just sort of listening to the gray rooms, and he's like, "I'll take that person, and I'll take that one."
Just don't forget the little guys, man.
But
Don't
Grant-
forget the little
Grant,
guys.
Hey, you know
From the
what,
No
guys?
Sleep
Y'all are
Show.
stuck with me.
Well, the truth is, I was in touch. I was speaking with Jason before I ever
Okay.
was talking with David.
Yeah, he's the number one guy. You know, Graham was first.
Yeah,
Yep. Graham was first.
Brian was third day.
Graham was first. And then it was Warren Richardson. I'll just tell you the name there. Then it was
there
Brian.
you go.
You're number 3.
Who you'll be hearing next week. Warren Richardson is next up in The Way Out.
Hopefully, I'm trying.
excited.
He's in Germany, so we're trying to work out the
Well,
the
if
time
he
difference
can't make it to the behind the door, he is definitely obviously the lead actor in
yeah.
the next episode.
I would love
And
to be behind the door.
written by
That's such a
good old
cool
Gary
guy.
Buller, who perished in the first story.
I killed him. I'm sorry. He's still alive. He's
You're not
still
sorry.
better. Like the Monty Python scene in the Holy Grail. I'm not dead yet. I'm getting better. That's it.
I hope you guys are ready for some vocal velvet because Warren Richardson voice out.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, vocal velvet.
And
Sounds nice.
hopefully we can get him to do his Elvis impersonation because apparently he goes on the radio and does it in Germany. So I'm excited. I want to get him to do it. Let's see if we can.
Yeah. I'm still waiting. I sent out that email, so we'll see what happens.
Are you feeling all right?
The King's here.
Grant,
The King's here.
Yeah, the King's.
Oh, and by the way, Graham, I wanted to thank you for being such a great sport and knowing that this is because we love you, brother.
It's the real Grant.
This is right here. Oh, get out of here.
For those
That
of
was
you
really
for those of you who are only listening to the audio portion of our show, every now and then they're holding up pictures of my face,
James
and I
got his.
totally took it in the spirit that it was meant. One of love
No.
There's the other one.
and joy.
in all
and
fairness, man,
comedy.
I'd say a big portion of this is because of Graham Rowat too. So that's
Oh.
because we
Renfield
love
wins.
the hell out of you. So at least,
Renfield
that's
wins.
post mortem. That's posthumous. I guess that's not nice, Renfield.
No, it's great. No,
It's in particular, that was the only thing I had to offer.
Oh, okay. That's right. No, those. By the way, those pictures behind you, bam. The classics. I love it. Beautiful.
For those at home, Renfield has an amazing setup at home, and on behind his sofa, he has full-size black and white movie posters of the Wolfman. I believe that's Bela Lugosi as
Phantom.
the Phantom. That's
Phantom
right.
of the Opera.
And
Yep.
of course,
Boris Karloff.
Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein's
Karloff
creature.
as Frankenstein's monster. Right, of course,
Don't
not
call him
Frankenstein himself.
Those are all the Universal ones, right?
Yeah, these are all the
Gosh,
Universal. These are the
classics,
Lugosi,
the real
the
ones.
Cheneys, the Karloffs.
I just feel like I'm staring at 3 of my oldest
Lon
friends.
Chaney is the Phantom, isn't it?
That's Cheney as the Phantom.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's where I was wrong.
No, it's cool. Yeah, I was actually going to say those are just a couple of my family members, but
Well, who's
The hallway wall.
if y'all want to see something really,
noose around his neck? Who's that guy?
that was the I don't know. I haven't come up with a good story.
Oh, full of axes.
That's Raymond right there.
JM, look at that freaking guitar
I know, I
collection,
saw
brother. You
that,
see
I saw
that?
that.
Holy cow!
My room's kind of a mess right now. This is what we call the morgue. because it's always cold and it's always demented in here. But if y'all want to see something really, really funny, it's off the topic. But since we're on the topic of weird stuff that's family members, okay, let me see if I can get her in the picture here. That in the electric chair.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
The corpse that's in the it's kind of funny. I should have had her in a rocking chair, but she's in a wedding gown.
It looks like a timeout doll, but it's not. What?
Oh, that's a full size. Let me see if I can get it here. That is a full size corpse.
Oh, I can see now. Okay.
Oh my God. And
That is amazing.
It's in a wedding gown. That is my mom's wedding gown.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Sometimes you just meet people and you know they're the real deal.
Yeah. I owe Renfield a friggin' drink, man. That's the
Wow.
That is awesome.
I think there's enough descriptions that people who are only getting the audio will know what we just.
Well, they're going to go on YouTube to find this video specifically.
Good.
Exactly.
You need
Yeah,
to.
that was my mom gave it to me, and she was like, "Yeah, I've had this for many years, and I don't really want to get rid of it, but it didn't really do me any good anyway. So can you just like figure out something to do in your haunted house with it?" I'm like, "Yeah."
That is awesome. In your haunted house.
What a good mom.
In your haunted
What a
house.
good mom.
That's so supportive, dude. That's pretty awesome.
That's how we do it in my family. So, again, yeah, that's how we do it here. And like I said, my wife is the one who actually named it the morgue because it's all dark, it's cold, and it's just got a bunch of, creepy stuff all in it. So she named it the morgue. It's just a bunch of
Pretty sweet.
I name it amazing. Don't even worry about it.
Which, by the way, you kept saying roots, like you kept talking about like creepypastas, like going back to your roots. And I'm telling, maybe you'll relate with this a little bit there, Renfield. But being an old metalhead, one of the things that popped into my head there was Sepultura, baby. Roots, bloody roots, just kept popping right in there.
Oh God, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's awesome. That was a lot of fun, man. I love your get up. Your story was great. It was an absolute honor.
Thank you. And you're all invited to the morgue. If you're ever down in Texas, you're all invited to the morgue.
Oh.
I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Can you never leave?
Bring the beer.
Guys, I feel like that is a great place to sort of wrap things up on another great Behind the Door and another great episode of the Grey Rooms. Thank you so much, Renfield and Sarah Ruth and Brooks and Jason, of course, and Brian and JM. We're here to make your dreams a nightmare. I don't know. Is that a good tagline?
You were working on that one.
I got to work.
And thank you to you, Graham. Thank you to you for hosting.
You're welcome,
Bob, and just being a great guy.
Yeah, and the next episode, of course, on Friday, this coming Friday, people who subscribe to the podcast are going to get this in their podcast feed, and people who are Patreon members will be hearing also on Friday The Way Out. A week before. Yeah.
You ready for this? You ready for this?
Yo,
The Way Out. You ready for this? Okay. If you are a patron, this is probably one of the small things to think about being a patron to help support the podcast. As little as $2 a month. This coming Friday.
That's nothing.
In the AM, you get the audio version of the Behind the Door, and you get the Patreon patron first bonus story, Labyrinth, written by Man and Lysette, starring Warren Richardson. That is going to air Friday in the morning, and Friday night you get The Way Out. So you get 3 stories in one day for as little as $2 a month.
And you get all the Warren Richardson
you get all Warren. By the end of the day, your bowels will have been loosened by the baritone of Warren Richardson.
And with that too, in the Patreon, if you did like the Warden is always in Patreon. The Warden is the one that deals with the patron stories. He's the one that pretty much communicates with the patrons. That's what he does. You may hear about here every now and then, but if you want some of the Warden or you want all these extra little goodies, hop on over.
And I can tell you the Warden episode coming up is pretty awesome. And
it's excellent.
If you actually look at it behind what's his name? Renfield, you might get a hint as to maybe what might be going on with the Warden this time. So
good job, Brian.
Yeah, a little hint. So I honestly, if you love the Warden, you definitely
warm, hot. Oh, cold.
He's guiding him.
No, yeah. So, just a little hint. $2. You'll find it.
Anyways,
have a good
this
time.
Friday we have 3 releases just for the patrons. Everybody else.
This Friday, this Friday, everybody will get Behind the Door, right?
Behind the Door,
and the patrons will receive the double, the 2-story pack of Ward Richardson, and then the following Friday, The Way Out will be available to everybody, but the Labyrinth is exclusive, and that's why you all need to become patrons.
And
I'm really looking forward to the next Raymond story that's coming out on this one too. I think we really start to kind of unwrap some things for you guys. So for anybody out there who likes a good mystery, is trying to figure things out, I would take what you have with Raymond now, and I would really start to make notes from here forward, and really try to figure out what's going on. I think you might be surprised at the end of the season, and there might be something for you. Just gonna say.
That's fantastic. And that would be patreon.com/the Grey Rooms. Is that right?
That is it.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
And also, I just wanted to say the date for submissions is at least the ending date for submissions is March 1st. Honestly, we have 2 stories right now that we actually were not able to, we didn't disqualify. Some people didn't follow the rules. So we had 2 stories way open for all kinds. If you're kind of hesitating, thinking people are just like slamming our door with different kinds of stories, throw them into us. We want them. I know Arthur Unk plans on like submitting 10, but
come on, Arthur, just do 1 or 2. Come on.
Every day, Arthur Unk, he's in the chat room. I'm just calling him out. He really wants to hit us good with these stories. But a lot of people are. We do have some, a lot of people coming back wanting to submit stories to us. But again, just don't think like if you write fantasy, send us something dark fantasy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just straight up. A teddy bear kills their family or something. It can be anything you want, as long as it's horror and follows their patterns.
Well done, Sarah. Well done.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
That sounds great, guys. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. This is a giant group of talented people. Looking forward to this coming Friday. I can't wait to hear all of that. In the meantime, everyone, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here's to another 2019 and all the amazing stories from the Grey Rooms.
With that being said, I get to say that I've actually known Graham and Brian for about a year. All right. That's a win for me, guys. That's a win for me. So
yeah.
Wow, 2018 sucked.
I don't know if you did you cut the feed before or after? We're still live, aren't we?
No, we're still live. I'm cutting off. Goodbye. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye, con Diablos.
By the way, Raymond's secret is